Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact on the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
I wasn't naive to the real world. I just didn't expect to impact me in the first 2 weeks like that.
Right.
So it helped me early on realize, like, I don't need to disconnect or bury it, but I have to somehow help myself get through it. But I knew in that moment that the voice that was given to the caller was the voice that was needed in the moment. And it's just built on through my entire career. Like, if I need to be your punching bag, I'll be your punching bag. It's nothing against me. That's fine. If I need to be the one to, can I call anyone for you? How can I help you? You know, any assistance, that's the voice that's needed.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services, and a big shout out to subscribers, as always, for everything. Thank you. And once again, I am out here in North Carolina. I have been doing training, recording episodes with some amazing 911 professionals, as well as, a big shout out to the North Carolina State 911 Board for their partnership and just everything that we've been doing these past couple of years. Thank you so very much for the opportunity and to be out here in this great state with all of these folks. And my next guest today is Emily, common spelling, 911, 911 supervisor with Henderson County Sheriff's Office out of North Carolina. How's it going?
It's good.
All right. Excellent. You didn't work last night or anything, right?
No, we
started after the class?
No.
Okay,
we started
cool.
a rotation tonight, though.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
so then I don't know that I have asked anyone this yet, but do you guys do 8 hour or 12 hour?
12 hours.
12 hours.
And we work the Dupont shift.
What does that mean?
So we start on a Friday night, and we work 4 nights straight and work off on a Tuesday morning. We have a midweek weekend, and then we work our 3-day weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Have a 1-day turnaround, and then come back nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, work off Friday morning, have a normal weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and then we work our 4 days, Monday through Thursday, and then we get a whole week off.
Holy moly.
So we get a whole week off every month, yes. And we only work 14 shifts, so.
That is craziness. It sounds like just chaos going into it. Like, as you're saying it, I'm trying to whiteboard it in my head.
It
like
took my husband maybe like 5 years to finally figure it out.
Yeah.
We have a spreadsheet.
That's funny.
Yes.
Like, here you go, honey.
Yeah.
Just read it off of there. And then 5 years later, it actually stuck.
Yes.
It worked.
He's like, oh, this all makes sense. Well, it does.
I know.
I promise it does. Yes.
Well, I'm
I'm glad to have you here. It was awesome to have you and your
Thank
crew
you.
in class yesterday as well. We talked about a lot of different things. We had some heavy moments in Imagine Listening and all of that, but we're here and I want to hear more about your story because you've got about 7.5 years in public safety. But how did you get into public safety to begin with? Now, do you come from a first responder family, or did you just kind of fall into it? How did it work for you?
So I didn't come from a first responder family.
Mhm.
I went to school for criminal justice and criminology, and then added on sociology. And so my family moved around constantly. I lived, gosh, I've lost count. I think it's at least 15 places over my life before I
Yeah.
like finally was like, okay, this next house we buy is my retirement home.
Right. Like, I need a
And
forever
so like
home.
when I graduated from here, I was like, I'm going to go and work for my hometown sheriff's office.
Mhm.
And so like and I just waited for the posting to come in. And so I did, I was at a retail place before throughout high school and college. And so I just stayed there until the post came out that there was a position open and I applied for it. And when I got the call, after months of waiting and background, I was so excited. I literally broke my phone because it fell out of my hand. I was so excited.
Oh man, that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Do you feel like everything that you were doing in retail, in one way or another, kind of prepared you for the folks that you were going to be dealing with phone calls coming in? I like how you laugh right off the bat.
Yes. Yeah. I ended up being a front end coordinator there. So I
Mhm.
dealt with everyone's complaints, everyone coming through the line. It's nice to not have to deal with them face to face
That's true.
anymore.
Yes, that's very
Yes.
true. Especially with
Mhm.
certain calls that are happening. There are some folks that you kind of don't want to meet.
No.
that
And
you
then
might
there's
not
some
want
that
to.
like sound like those that I had, and I just picture them in my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
aha, it's okay. I don't have to see now.
it's like
I can't. Yeah.
I've dealt with
Mhm.
someone like you before.
Mhm.
Yes. I remember I mentioned yesterday in class how one of the retail stores that I worked at was Blockbuster, but another one, another one was actually a clothing store.
Mhm.
And so I'm 18 years old managing this clothing store. And I remember people coming in and you have to kind of wordsmith or finesse in a way with some
Mhm.
folks when they're coming in and they are pissed off because they didn't get their discount on a discount. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. You
Mhm.
you can't get the discount on the discount and vice versa or whatever. So then you have to try to work with that and then work with them to get them to answer certain things. So I feel like as well, just kind of like you, it kind of prepared me for some of the
Yes.
stuff. But I do remember some callers where one guy specifically, I remember him calling over and over and over, and he was just, it was just off the wall things
Mhm.
that he was saying. Okay. And the very last call, he says to me, um, and on a recorded line as well, he says, I need you to take this phone number down. And I said, okay. So I'm writing the phone number down. And he goes, you need to call that phone number and you need to let them know that the president is in danger. The president is in danger.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And, I'm listening to him. He said way more crazy stuff, but who knows who's listening right now. And I don't want to say that part either. But we hang up and I tell my supervisor this and she goes, you're not going to call the number, are you? And I said, yeah, I am. She goes, don't call the number. I was like, dude, I have to. It's probably just going to be to him anyway.
Mhm.
Well, I call the phone number and I hear someone pick up. And what I hear is White House switchboard. Can I help you? And I went, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Say that again. And they said it again. I said, this is the White House. They're like, yeah, this is switchboard. Who are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm Ricardo from, and I said who I was and everything. And I said, so-and-so has been calling. And they're like, oh, him? Oh, he's fine. We checked him out already. He's okay. Don't worry about him. I was like, what? But that is someone that I did not want to meet.
Mhm.
That I did not want to meet
Yes.
there in public and stuff. So you end up getting in and you obviously fall in love with it right away.
Mhm.
Was there anything that you feel like that was kind of, I don't know, maybe a moment, a phone call, an incident with someone or something that really solidified the fact that you were where you were supposed to be?
So I had a great trainer
Mhm.
starting out. and put on a great shift starting out. And so like before we take the phone calls after orientation, the first phase, you sit and you kind of like listen and you type for them to kind of get used to it. So like you're not just thrown in and have to, you don't freeze.
Right.
Like you don't have to speak and type. And so it was kind of like an ease in. And that first one was kind of what I talked about yesterday. Was that call during the just listening that I shared. And it was, I wasn't naive to the real world. I just didn't expect to impact me in the first 2 weeks like that.
Right.
So it helped me early on realize like I don't need to disconnect or bury it, but I have to somehow help myself get through it. But I knew in that moment that the voice that was given to the caller was the voice that was needed in the moment. And it's just built on through my entire career. Like if I need to be your punching bag, I'll be your punching bag. It's nothing against me. That's fine. If I need to be the one to, can I call anyone for you? How can I help you? Any assistance. That's the voice that's needed in that moment. Because I mean, that's all you can give them.
Right.
Like besides the resources that you're sending them, but it's everything.
Now, did you have that support around you that helped you come up to that realization, or did you just on your own have that realization like right off the bat in the beginning? Because, and the reason I ask too is because a lot of times with folks, excuse me, they don't have that awareness. They don't have that realization that it's not me, it's whatever their situation is, and I shouldn't be taking it that personal or to heart. Like, what was it for you? Because it sounds like you kind of already had gotten, this awareness and stuff about you and kind of the situations that you were going to be dealing with on these calls.
So it comes from my previous job as being the front end coordinator. I had a situation where I literally had a breakdown. And my husband, then boyfriend at the time, came and supported me, like, because I ended up going on lunch break because it was about time for my break anyways. And so he came and met me and talked me through it. And he's been the biggest supporter. And so like, he's like, I can tell something, he can tell when I shut down. He's like, listen, you don't need to talk about it now. I'll give you time, but listen, we're going to talk about it in the next little bit. However deep you want to go, and then we'll talk about it again in a few days. So he's really good at checking in. And so like that's kind of established a good baseline for me to make sure like I'm checking in on my people and checking in on others around me too.
Dang. See, that is awesome. That is always good to have that type of support because, for a lot of us, especially if you have a, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever, that doesn't come from public safety, sometimes they don't always know how to talk to you. Or like if you tell them a hard call, they're just kind of there. Like, like, let me give you a hug.
He's like, yeah, let me give you a hug. Or like, ooh, what actually happened?
Yeah.
Like he's like intrigued, so
see, and
good.
that's always good as well.
Like, are you sure you want me to tell you?
Right. Yes.
It's like, I want to tell you, I can't, you cannot imagine it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No. And I say that too, because, early on when I was not so much in the single PD, single seat PD, but in the central dispatch, where the call volume is a lot higher, so many other things that are going on. And I'm, kind of struggling with some of these calls because nobody's talking about it or anything. I would come home and my wife would go, how did everything go? And, or how was the day? And I would tell her a hard call and she'd just kind of be there looking at me. And she's like, I'm not sure how to respond to you, but like bring it in for the real thing. And I'm like, even that works, even that alone works. But I also realized something that, because we would go to, cookouts or whatever with other officers, dispatchers, whatever. And I would start telling all of these funny stories. And I remember this one time specifically, my wife like socked me in the arm and I was like, oh, I was like, what was that for? And she's like, why aren't you telling me these stories too?
Like, tell me, yeah.
Like mix it up a little bit, dude. Like, why aren't you telling me some of these funnier ones when all you're giving me is the hard ones? I'm like, because at the moment, that's all I have. Like, I'm not thinking of some of these other things. So that's awesome that you have had the support, not only at home, but also it seems like here in the center as well. I mean, just listening to your sheriff talk about you guys yesterday, I mean, how does that, just that alone, how does that make you feel?
Heard.
Mhm.
seen, taken care of, protected. It's, all of the above. Like, if you need anything, that there's someone who, one, already knows,
Mhm.
or two, is more than willing to help you get the resources that you need.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing to have that recognition,
Mhm.
because there are a lot of places where people are just like, oh, well, I mean, you're answering our calls, you're going to listen to us,
Mhm.
and deep down we're like,
Yes.
you listen to us actually, but
Yes.
and it's definitely like that in some places. But I love the fact, even talking to your sheriff earlier today, his appreciation for everything that all of you do, and also the sense of camaraderie that you have here as well.
Mhm.
I'm sure, like any place, there's always going to be some tough times, hard times, or whatever. But it seems like you guys have a pretty good thing going, and that's everything. That's what people
Mhm.
want. So early on, going through, whether it be training or when you first got on or went off, rather, by yourself, off of training, do you remember your first call, or do you remember some of those earlier calls that you took during that time?
I remember the funny ones. I didn't really have, like, that one in the first 2 weeks. That was the
Mhm.
hard one.
Yeah.
And then after that, if there were hard ones, I didn't really choose to remember them. I kind of let them go. I
Mhm.
remember a lot of the funny ones.
Yeah.
There was one where this guy called in. He actually had a pet monkey. Yes, he
Wait,
calls.
what?
Yes, no, he had a pet monkey, and he said, "I don't know if I'm able to get assistance for this or anything, but my monkey got out, and it's climbed up the tree, and I can't get it to come back down. And so we sent deputies out there to see if we can assist somehow, because we're not going to not deny someone assistance.
Of course, right.
Plus, you want to see if it's true, unless he's crazy, or you want to get a picture of this monkey.
Oh, right, exactly.
And so they get out there, and there's this monkey legitimately up in this tree. It's in a diaper. It's a monkey wearing a diaper. And this dude's dog is like on the ground just barking up at it. And so what the monkey would do is it would come down, slap the dog, run back up the tree.
This is like a cartoon.
Yes. But I was like, so it was just going from, the first call, I was like, okay, wow, this is the real world, to like all of that, to people being so high on drugs that they're literally seeing things.
Yes.
Where our deputies get out there and it's like 30 degrees outside, 30, 40 degrees outside. Like, it's cold. Like,
Yeah.
you need to be in something, completely shirtless, standing there, holding up the moon, dripping sweat. And so, like, our deputies would be like, here, bud, let me go ahead and take that for you. Hand me the moon carefully. And like, they'd hand the moon over to the deputy. Okay, you need to go take a seat. Like, going, I was like, man, people are crazy.
It does happen,
Yeah.
right? It's so.
Yeah. I always say, like, I
Oh,
truly think I've
wow.
heard it all,
Right.
but then there's always like,
Of course.
I don't want
yes.
to put that out there because I'm good.
You're
Yeah.
tempting fate
Yes.
by saying that, because the
Mhm.
moment you think you've taken the most outrageous call, yep, the next one
Yes.
comes in. You're like, okay, this was
Yes.
even more crazy.
Mhm.
I remember being in dispatch. This was back in Florida. There was one night that I was working, and I can't remember for sure if it was one of our officers that pulled this person over, or it was a deputy who had pulled them over, and we went to assist. I think it was the latter, but the deputy was a canine officer as well. And my officers out there, well, what they were doing was, the person got pulled over. They had a warrant, but they fled. They took off running. Well, they're searching for the person, and the dog is barking at this above ground pool. And it's the middle of the night, and they're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And so they take the dog, lead the dog somewhere else, but the dog comes back. Well,
Mm.
they look closer at the pool, and sticking up out of the water is a straw. The suspect was in the water.
Thank goodness he had a straw.
Yes, exactly. Yes, because I remember sitting there and them coming into the PD, and the person is drenched. And I was like, what the hell happened? They're like, dude, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
But
Any good story starts with that.
Right. Yes. You're not going to believe this. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay. So here's a question for you. Dumb criminal or smart criminal? I mean, they got caught, but it's a toss up. It could be
It's a
either or.
toss-up. I'm leaning more towards the latter, but yeah.
I mean, if anything, the one who was really smart was the dog, because the dog was the one that was there. But also, who carries a straw on them, or where did they get the straw? Did they pull it out of a garbage can or something? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, how did they just happen to have a straw?
No idea, man. No idea. But again, those are some of those things that happen where you're like, what the hell? Like, is this real life? And I thought you were going to tell me at first that it turned out that the monkey thing was like, it was fake. Like the person was hallucinating.
No.
Jeez.
It was legit a pet monkey in a diaper that would slap the dog and back up the tree. Yeah.
That's one of the funniest things right there. That is hilarious. And then having to go out there and deal with that as well. That is crazy. I remember there was a guy who called once who said that we needed to get everybody out there because his neighbor had just got home and found his wife and her lover together. And he brought them into a shed and had a shotgun. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yep.
So we have everybody out there, like SWAT is out there and everything. Well, they end up telling me, find a phone number for the neighbor and call him to see if you can get him to come out or put his weapon down or whatever. I'm like, me? I was like, don't you guys have a negotiator? Like, like that was quickly in my head thinking that, but I was like, nope, this is my turn. This is like my time to shine. So I would call the guy and he answers the phone. And at this time as well, my caller ended up, the officers ended up getting my caller. So as they were talking to him, they were saying the story sounds weird. And it started to sound weird to me as well as he continued to talk because it started to change a little bit. So I call the neighbor. I ask him where his wife is at. And he's like, I just got home from work. Also, I live alone. I've never been married. Why would you ask me that? I'm like, oh my God. And I said, okay, so there's some officers that are outside of your house right now. I need you to, walk out. Don't have any weapons. He's like, I don't have any weapons. I said, well, you just need to go out with your hands up. He opens the door and I hear everyone, get down, get the hell down right now. And I hear him go, oh, what's going on? Turns out my caller was tripping on acid.
Yeah.
And hallucinated the whole thing.
That'll do it.
Yes. It was a crazy moment. I could not believe that had happened. As we're going into the wrap up of your episode, it's been awesome to have you on and talk to you and learn more about you and everything. How do you feel like this job this profession rather, has changed you?
Like my partner said earlier, definitely more jaded.
Yeah.
There's times when I'm like, should I feel something?
Yeah.
When I don't. Or we say we have extremely dark humor. So there's a story that I could share that happened 2 Christmases ago.
Yeah.
I got a 911 call of someone that was pulled over on the side of the interstate and said that there's this lady that was asking her boyfriend to get the vehicle out of the road for her because what ended up happening was she had run across the traffic cone on the interstate, which it's under construction all the time.
Yeah.
And so she ran over the traffic cone on the interstate, and instead of stopping her car and getting it out, she opened her door as she was driving to try and pull the cone out. And so these people saw this, and her vehicle she fell out and she ended up getting run over by her own vehicle. And so as he's running out to help her, she's like, no, go move my vehicle out of the way. I'll get up. I'm getting there. Well, as she's getting up, a semi comes and just takes her out and drags her like many, many yards down the highway. Never was found. There was pieces of her left. I'm sure he doesn't even know he hit this woman. He probably thought, oh, it's just a deer.
Right.
I mean, but she was unrecognizable. And so like that was Christmas Eve at 12:28 a.m. So we we're like, grandma got ran over by a semi.
That's
like
true.
it's horrible, but like, that's what we,
Right.
that's how we coped at the time,
That
because
is how
we
you
truly
cope.
couldn't believe, because as the call came in, she was screaming at her boyfriend to move the vehicle. And then the lady just starts screaming, and it initially came out like it was a suicide call. And so like, I was feeling for the female that called in, like, she just witnessed this
Right.
in front of her. She's never going to be able to not see that. She's never, like, from this point on, she's changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt for her and her boyfriend. And because like, we initially thought it was a suicide call, like, how horrible of that person to put them in that situation. To then come find out it was a complete accident.
Right.
Because she was just trying to get a traffic cone out from under her vehicle.
I think in agreement with you as well. I think that's also a way that, it's a way that we cope, right? And it's a way for us to also protect ourselves and process the entire thing. So where others would end up thinking, that is the most horrible thing. Like, why would you say that? Or why would you think that? Then you also have to add the layer of, you have no idea what goes into something like this, because some of the calls that I've played on some episodes in the past, there were some things that I kind of joked about. And there was someone who listened to an episode, and I remember this vividly. When it was still Twitter, they tweeted out to me and mentioned me, and they said, I hope that you were never the person answering my call because you're laughing at too many hard things. And when I went to respond, before I could respond, there was about 10 people that responded before me. And they explained the same thing. They're like, you have to have some sort of dark humor in this profession or profession like this when you're dealing with lives to be able to get through it. One person specifically that I remember was an ER nurse. And she goes, have you ever dealt with or smelled burnt flesh before? No, you probably haven't. And if I didn't laugh about certain things in a certain way, they said, I'm not laughing about the person. It's about the situation.
Yes, it's just the situation.
It's the situation that you just can't believe, that is so outrageous that all you can do is laugh in a certain way, thinking about it in a different way so that you can get past it. The person says, because if not, I would be crying a lot more than laughing. And I would probably not be able to do this job.
Oh, I wouldn't still be in it.
Right. And that person who said something that I didn't even have to respond to after that, they apologized. And they said, I guess I had no idea. I was reacting instead of understanding. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it's true. You know, there is a certain humor, a certain response sometimes that we have that others might be like, for real? And you respond with, yeah, for real. Like that's how we cope with things. And that's how things like that happen as well.
Yeah.
So
like, we laughed about the situation, and then we all sat down and we were like, wow. Like, once we found out what actually had happened, and we all kind of talked about it, made sure like we were all okay about it. You know, we checked in with deputies, like, because I mean, it's a horrific scene, and like, we're just imagining it, and they're going out and responding to it.
Exactly.
And so like, we went through and we were like, well, we feel so bad. You know, we were thinking about her and her family. And so like, that's just your gut reaction initially, but you truly do still, like, doesn't take caring out of the factor at all.
Right. Of course. Yeah, no, we're here to help as much as possible. And that's the main thing. You know, we care about these people, but again, there are just some situations where you just kind of think, God, is this real life? And it is. And it's stuff that other people would never be able to handle. What a profession.
It is. It is.
It's something, right?
Yes.
Well, I have had a great time with you here and learning more about you and hearing your stories and everything, Emily. And I've got one last question for you as we wrap this up. In your 7.5 years here and in public safety, everything that you've been doing, if you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning of your dispatch career, what advice would you give yourself?
Give yourself grace. At the root cause of it all, you're human. Everyone else is human. We're all in this together, to help people and most of all, keep our responders safe. Just take a breath in, let it out, and surround yourself with those around you because they're in the same situation that you are.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for everything and for what you do for this profession. I appreciate it. And I've had a lot of fun with you here and yesterday with everyone. It was awesome. So thank you for what you do in this profession.
Thank you.
If you hang tight here for just a moment, and for everyone who's watching, listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you ever want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. But the easiest way is to simply go to links.co/WTT podcast, and you'll find everything there. This episode has been sponsored by In Digital, a leader next gen core services. You can see this on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, as well as YouTube. And then you can hear this 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years, I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But imagine listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.